Well, as promised yesterday in my new fragrances anticipation video, I have a full review of Dior's Eden-Roc here today in this video. I have my bottle. I've been using it up. As you can see, a lot has been used up. It goes down fairly easily. It's not like a beastly fragrance. It's mostly a skin scent, but I'm going to let you know all about this one. And I was expecting or wanting coconuts, and I don't get much coconut with this one. I get something like perhaps it thinks about coconut but doesn't fully execute it as a coconutty fragrance, which I don't even think Francois Demachy had in his mind to create a coconutty fragrance. Either way, Dior's Eden-Roc full review coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yes, today I'm talking about Maison Christian Dior's latest release, not an exclusive online thing. This is available at the boutiques. Tabacolor was not available at the boutiques. It's online only. But Eden-Roc is out, and I've got all the scoop on it for you. I'm a little let down with this particular release. Not as exciting as Tabacolor. Tabacolor was a great release. Awesome fragrance. Love wearing it. This one, to me, it's okay. That's what I'm going to say right now. But before I get to the full review of Eden-Roc, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you still haven't subscribed to the channel, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. So how many of you are a fan of Dior's Maison Christian Dior collection of fragrances? How many of you were anticipating Eden-Roc? How many of you get coconuts from this particular fragrance? I do get something coconutty in here, but I don't get coconuts. First of all, the fragrance is inspired by a Mediterranean hotel, the Eden-Roc, in the south of France. The Mediterranean is not known for coconuts, so why would this fragrance feature coconuts as a note? So that is my first question to you guys. But let me tell you what is written about this particular fragrance on Dior's website. And Dior's website is a little confusing because they don't typically do a notes breakdown. They have all these multiple paragraphs talking about what this fragrance idea is and what the colors are and what the ambiance is. And each little paragraph gives you a little idea of what the notes are. And they don't mention coconuts whatsoever. Absolutely not. They also do not mention jasmine, and jasmine is mentioned as a note in Fragrantica, and of course coconuts are mentioned as a note in Fragrantica as well. I don't get jasmines with this one either. I do get something white floral, but it's kind of a nondescript floral. Perhaps it could have a little jasmine-like quality, but for me it's not necessarily like full-on in-your-face jasmine, just like the coconutty smell in here is not full-on in-your-face coconuts. So let me read that little paragraph from Francois Demachy, because the Dior website has all these little paragraphs on there. One of them is from Francois Demachy, and it's basically going to give you an idea of the inspiration for this fragrance. So Francois Demachy writes, I composed Eden-Roc by imagining an arrival by sea, the salt, the sun, the light-colored rock, the lush plant life. Its trail is an olfactory image of escape in an exceptional locale. The accords reveal themselves as a story of the Mediterranean. The smell of the sea, flowers and citrus fruit, aromatic scents and the image of pine trees in the south of France. The Hôtel du Cap-Eden-Roc is a landmark of luxury and fresh air, great refinement, as well as exquisite simplicity. A fragrance is alive when it is worn. Same goes for a place when it is lived in. So long live the Hôtel du Cap-Eden-Roc. As I read that to you, you get the idea of the inspiration for this fragrance. And I'm a Mediterranean guy myself. I know the kind of like the environment and what kind of vegetation grows there, and I never knew that there was any coconuts. Some Mediterranean countries do have palm, dates and things like that, but definitely not coconuts. Coconuts would not survive when it gets really cold, according to my research. So that's the inspiration for this fragrance. A lot of people have told me that it's a coconutty fragrance, and even though, as I said, I do get something coconutty in there, it's not full-on coconuts because I was expecting coconuts. But according to Dior's website, it's sea salt, citruses, mineral notes, marine notes, solar notes, white flowers, pine. Those are the notes that I could kind of like take off of their website, the correct notes. Obviously there are going to be accords, and I think because of all these notes we are experiencing something coconutty, but for me it's more of a suntan lotion, sunscreen application for the skin that has a little bit of a coconutty touch rather than full-on coconuts as a note in a fragrance. And it also is not necessarily a thick, gloppy kind of a coconutty experience. It's a very light coconutty experience, almost to the point of making it like a coconut water rather than like coconut syrup, or like how sunscreen or suntan lotion is very kind of oily, syrupy. That's what I'm getting, more like a coconut water rather than the actual lotiony kind of experience. The fragrance is actually quite light as a wearing experience, and it's a skin scent for me, absolute skin scent, and it goes down so fast. And I've said it here today, and also in my previous video from yesterday, where I did a video on anticipating upcoming fragrances, I featured this. So I received this on Friday, but I have been wearing samples because I ordered this fragrance from Saks Fifth Avenue, New York City. There was a little bit of a mix-up with my order, so it's been a little behind, but thankfully there's an amazing sales associate, or a Dior rep, I think he's not really a sales associate, Sal. If you're ever going to buy Maison Christian Dior fragrances, always look up to contacting Sal at Saks Fifth Avenue, New York City. He will take care of you, and he has amazing customer service, and that's who I bought this from. So as I said, I've been wearing samples that he had sent me because there was a little bit of a mix-up with my order, so it took me a little while to get a full bottle, finally have it. But as I said, I've been wearing the samples, and this came to me on Friday, and this is how much has gone down since Friday, and it does go down pretty easily. So you got to apply it liberally. Not only does it not have great longevity, it's also not a screamer of a fragrance. It's not a loud fragrance. There is a light trail there, but it doesn't last too long. It doesn't have a big cloud, things like that. So I think this is something that's a little bit of a negative for this particular fragrance. And I was excited. I was really excited about something coconutty, but I kept thinking to myself, coconuts are not associated with the Mediterranean, so obviously they're not featuring it here. So it is a nice fusion of salty fragrance with lots of citruses, and once again, the citruses are also not necessarily distinct. I think it could be a combination of some bergamot, perhaps some lemon, and some mandarin. Not really getting like grapefruit or yuzu or anything like that, but I think it's just a nice fusion of some of those citruses. As I said, they're very non-distinct citruses, just like the jasmine that they credit on Fragrantica. On Dior's website it says flowers, it's white flowers. I think it could be a combination of jasmine, perhaps some tuberose, but not very fragrant flowers to me. I think this is more like magnolias. The flowers don't come off very distinct, so you can't really point out. I mean, at least I'm not pointing it out. I mean, figuring out exactly, like, you can't like narrow it down to what it really smells like. Yes, it might remind me of a little bit of jasmine, might hint at a little bit of gardenia, might remind you a little bit of tuberose, but for me I'm getting non-distinct white flowers, and it's a mixture of white flowers rather than just one kind of white flower as it is stated on the Fragrantica website. Always definitely go and check out these designers or actually brands websites to see notes breakdown, but sadly they don't really put a notes breakdown, and they have all this like text written down, and you have to like figure out what the frickin' notes are, and this is what I was able to get off of the Dior website. So not only does it not perform well, it's a skin scent, and I think if you're going to be wearing this in the summertime, I think it makes sense. It's a fresh fragrance, but it does have a little depth as a smell, not necessarily as performance. It does smell a little deep. It has some deep notes, but it doesn't come off as a very deep, rich fragrance. Does that make sense? It does wear quite light. You do experience the sea salt in here. It's salty for sure. It's a sweet, salty combination, and it's also a little bit vegetal. There's a vegetal-y quality in there. And once again here, I think we're getting an accord a vegetal accord created with the actual notes that are in here. I do pick up minerally touches, and of course the Mediterranean, the coast, all the rocks and all the whatever it is on the shore, there is a little bit of a minerally smell there. You can definitely pick it up in the air. So he's actually captured that kind of a smell here, and it makes sense for this particular fragrance, you know? It does make sense. So in addition to the salt and the mineral notes, you're also picking up some sea smells. Of course, you're on the coast. It's going to be coming and hitting your face if you are over there in this particular, you know, environment of where this fragrance was inspired from. I'm also getting a little bit of a sunshiny, sun kind of solar type notes in here, and also a little bit of a skin, like sun tanned or sun, not necessarily burned, but sun tanned kind of skin. And this is where the coconutty touches come into consideration, because if you're applying suntan lotion on, you're gonna probably have a smell, and there's a little bit of a coconutty smell in there. So I think this is where it's coming from. And some of you have been asking me, does it smell like beach walk? For me, it doesn't really smell like beach walk, but it reminds me of the idea of beach walk. Does that make sense? A little bit, not too much. I don't get much minerally touches with beach walk from Maison Margiela. I get more of a muskiness with that one. This one is more mineral, you know, it's very minerally. So we covered the white flowers, and the last thing I want to cover about this fragrance, they do mention pine trees, and it's not a very distinct pine smelling fragrance. So that's another thing that I think I can get the idea of it, but the way they've blended the fragrance, the saltiness, the minerally touches, and the marine touches kind of like toned down any kind of a real standout kind of a pine smelling note in here. So I think it's blended well, but I'm just not digging this particular blend too much. Does that make sense? It's not that exciting for me. It's not. That's my thoughts on it. I'm a little bummed with this one, but I guess this is what they've come up with, and you know, Francois Demachy is a perfumer, and this was all probably approved, most likely, definitely approved by the whole conglomerate LVMH. But let me know if you guys are fans of this one. Do you like the idea of it? And if you've sampled it, do you like the way it smells? For me, it's not something I'm going to grab a lot, not like Tobacco Color, which smells fantastic to me. This one is a doozy kind of fragrance. One other thing I should say though is the idea kind of reminds me a little bit of Balade Sauvage, the whole minerally kind of thing, light marine notes that are also in Balade Sauvage, and then also the solar notes that are there as well. But I much prefer Balade Sauvage over this, much prefer it over this. I just love the way Balade Sauvage smells. This one, sadly, it's just kind of falls flat on me. Disappointing. But there are two more fragrances that we can look forward to. There's Diorama, Vanilla Diorama, I think it's what it's called. And from what I hear, that is going to be an online exclusive, just like Tobacco Color. And I think there's also Soleil Bigarade, which is also supposedly going to be an online exclusive. I'm not 100% sure about these. I just heard and read about these online. I know that they are coming out with those two fragrances, definitely on the Vanilla Diorama. Exciting, I love vanilla, but sadly Eden-Roc is not my most favorite fragrance. As I said, it does go down really fast. I've used this much up since Friday, and in addition to all the samples I've worn, so it just goes down. It doesn't have great longevity. That's the problem with this particular fragrance. But let me know if you're excited about this release. Let me know if you've sampled it and you do get coconuts. Let me know what you think about it, and just put some comments down so I can find out. And if you haven't sampled it, now that you've watched my review, what are you going to do about Eden-Roc from Dior? Are you going to test it out still? Are you going to get a bottle, buy some samples, or go sample it in the store? Is it still exciting to you? Put some comments down so I can find out. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today's review for Dior's Eden-Roc. If you haven't caught my video from yesterday, which is a video for exciting new fragrances that are launching soon, I had my first preview of this one in there and a bunch of other fragrances, including the new Cartier collection of unisex fragrances and also Brioni EDP. Stay tuned for a review for Brioni EDP tomorrow. Also, there's a lot more exciting fragrances in that video, and there's one more fragrance in that video that I had just recently acquired called Vacation by Vacation. Now that is a true coconutty fragrance that I think is definitely worth it. It was a 30 ml bottle for $60, I think, somewhere around $60. Anyway, appreciate you watching. As I said, if you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.